All right, well, we're here for episode 8 of the Shuttlecock podcast. My name is Aaron Rhodes, and I'm here with Paige Batson. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. You are living out in Lawrence and just staying very involved with any and all live music out there.
Yeah.
I guess we'll just kind of start from, your musical beginnings and move on from there.
Totally.
So, what kind of music were you listening to when you were growing up?
Well, my mom, she was really into Prince and Mazzy Star and like Carpenters and Fleetwood Mac and all of that stuff. So I kind of was raised on this like Paisley Underground type like feel. So I have this like pop root. My dad was really into Devo and David Bowie and all that stuff. But my first concert was Dixie Chicks. But
That's a good one.
Oh yeah, in Wichita, Kansas. It was quite the memory. I'm pretty sure I got a beer spilt on me, and I was like, "This is a country like 3 white femmes. That's wild in Wichita." But I my music taste changed a lot as I got older,
And did you grow up in Wichita?
Yeah, I was born there, and then I moved around here, and then I moved away, and then I came back.
Where did you move to when you left?
Massachusetts. Yeah, I was like right on the border of Rhode Island and Massachusetts, so I got to go to a lot of awesome shows in Providence and in Boston. It was pretty nice. I was only there for like 9 months. Yeah.
And so after your country beginning, what kind of happened with your music after that?
I was actually gifted when I was probably like, I don't know, like 10 years old. My former stepdad bought me this like radio broadcasting set from one of those like Brookside stores or whatever, and it was my favorite thing ever. It was awesome because I could broadcast from my bedroom, and I had like, I think it was like dial like 90.2 or something. I'm not really sure, but I could broadcast to the houses next to me, and I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. And I had my little hit clips, and I would just like put them up to the mic and talk about the 30 seconds that played. And every time I had friends over, I'd be like, "This is what we're doing. We're broadcasting these hit clips." So I've always wanted to share other people's music. So
Yeah, and I guess that does a good job of leading into your college career.
Yeah.
So you were at KU and you were working at KJHK there, right?
Yeah, I actually, one of the reasons why I chose KU was KJHK. And the second I got accepted to KU, I applied for KJHK. So I jumped right in. And KJHK is like one of the best and most important things that like has come out of Lawrence. It's done so much and holds people up so much. So KJHK.
Yeah, like everyone that I've ever met that has worked at KJHK just will almost not stop talking about it. Like every time you hang out, you're like, "Oh yeah, back when I was at KJHK, I was doing this or on my show there." So that's kind of a universal thing I hear.
And there's so many layers of what KJ does, and I was there once it had already moved into the union, so I hear stories about the shack, and I never got to go there. And that was kind of, I think, the more like, I work at Love Garden, and Cyrus, he works at Love Garden too, but when he was in the shack, did like, I think a full week of rotation. And I don't know what year it was, but you couldn't, now there's like, there's like, a system where people don't have to stay overnight, but he was there all week, and people were like bringing him food and all that fun, like, I don't know, camping in the shack. But now it's more like, okay, we have all of these committees, and we're doing live shows, and we're doing street team, and I don't know, promotion, and it's so different than what it was like 10 years ago, even though I wasn't around 10 years ago. But still, like, the people that are coming out of KJ are like doing so much. Austin Ellington, who is my live music partner, he is now doing a bunch of stuff with Mammoth, and it's really cool to see that. And John Dillingham, he's been doing so much too, and he was my station manager, and it's really awesome to see people like all like grow here together and keep doing music stuff.
Yeah, even like it seems like even if they're not working in radio, which like I feel like a lot of them aren't, like it still like spits people out into
Totally.
like working in local music?
Yeah, when I am actually going to go back because I have one more year at KU. I'm going to do a rotation DJ set at some point, but Tom and Margaret, the general managers when I was there, like introduced me to Nick Carroll, who owns the Replay. So after I'd kind of done my like exec staff at KJ, they were like, awesome, we're so proud of you. Here's another opportunity. And I think that's another part of KJ that's so awesome is like once you're done there, the people that are like managing are still helping like you get somewhere else. And now I'm way into Replay and doing everything I can there, and that's again because of KJ.
And you mentioned what is exec staff work?
At KJHK, there's like an exec staff, so it's like live music, like live in studios, so multimedia. I don't even remember all of them. Production, promotion. There's production managers, like the person that does like all of the DJ and like. It's like I always call them like the parent because they always call like if you weren't there for your shift or whatever. So I had my experience of like management there, and then once I did that, it was time to move on, I guess.
And but you did spend time as a DJ there?
Yeah, definitely.
What kind of stuff were you playing?
I did a local hip hop block for a while, and that was kind of hard because no one's really like censoring their stuff, so you had to be really like in tune with what was going on. So if you're playing something that you maybe didn't have time to censor, you had to be like playing with the board a lot, and it became more of a regional thing. And that's actually how I learned about a bunch of stuff going on in Nebraska, which has been a really awesome like hip hop relationship, which I wouldn't have really expected, just because Mitch Rasnick and a few people who had the hip hop show before me Mitch was from Nebraska, and so because of like the person that was there before me, I got to also build on that like relationship that now there's like this group of people called the Gentlemen's Club on Facebook, and that's all because of this local hip hop block and Mitch Rasnick at KJHK. And I know so many people now that are in this group that just share music all the time, and it's awesome.
Because like even through like people I've met involved in like Nebraska hardcore music, like I think they keep like pretty close ties with some of the hip hop also, because like when I don't know if you've heard of Bib, it's like a Omaha hardcore band, and they just got signed to Popwig Records, which is like all the like Turnstile and Angel Dust guys. But yeah, one of the guys from Bib, when they were supposed to play at the Wayne's World 3 Fest in Kansas City, but like they ended up not playing because one of their guitarists was like stuck in the hospital or something.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah, so that wasn't good. But there a couple of the guys were just hanging out there, and he told me about like that he'd been setting up like DIY shows like their regular punk shows, but they'd been involving like some Omaha like rap acts. Like there's one called Roach that he was telling me I needed to check out. I don't know if you're aware of those guys, but totally. Yeah, so that's always kind of a cool relationship to see happen.
Yeah, definitely. And it was like so different too, just because I have like a wide variety of tastes, that I was doing like a local block, then a local hip hop block, then just a rotation block. And I mean, there's just so much going on in the Midwest. It's wild. It blows my mind. Like a lot of people really focus on the coast, and what I really want to do is emphasize how much good stuff is coming out of the Midwest, like from Minneapolis to like Austin and Denton, to probably around Denver to beyond St. Louis. Like there's just so much of all different genres, and like introducing people is one of my favorite things to do. That's why I love hosting shows, because I can like conjure up like a plan, like, ooh, this band from this city would be really good with this band from this city, and I also think they'd be really good friends. Like it's beyond the music. It's creating a community and a relationship, and it's awesome. It's so much fun. It's also a lot of work.
Yeah, I can tell. And it's all, every community needs those people, setting everyone up.
Yeah,
so.
I appreciate you too.
Thank you. And yeah, so what was some of your favorite stuff to play on that hip hop show?
Oh man, I played a lot of, like, I really learned a lot about, like, the Bear Club thing. I wasn't really around a lot for, like, when Phil and Maul and all of them are really, like, hosting Bear Club at, I think it was Bottleneck for a while, and they did a Seed Coast show. And so I never really got to experience that, but I got to, like, try to keep it, I don't know, keep it around while they were away. So that was something I learned about these people that were from Lawrence through KJ, but without meeting them, and then met them later on. So that was something that I really appreciated from that show specifically. And that was only a semester long, and I ended up passing it off because it was Friday evenings, and I kept trying to put shows on while I also had this DJ set. So it became a conflict, unfortunately. But I, got to learn about a lot of people who don't live in Lawrence anymore that were still, doing stuff, that were all in LA, being big deals and stuff.
And wait, so when did your hip hop show like start and end? Do you know?
I did it, I think it was like a year ago, and I did it on Friday evenings, like 8 to 10 p.m. And it was really hard. Yeah. It was like felt like I kept playing like a lot of the same stuff, because it is really hard to. Now I've definitely kind of found a little bit more out of Kansas City than I had known then. I'm really interested right now in like Duncan Burnett's, what he's been up to lately. And
he's cool.
He's been working with Macy and Crystal Rose, and these are all people that I'm really excited now that I didn't know about then, or weren't, making music as much then, and trying to put that kind of stuff into rotation at KJ, because it really is hard to do a lot of searching and downloading and uploading to that system, so it doesn't become all the same stuff. But Kansas City's got some really awesome stuff going on, like hip-hop wise.
Definitely. And I know, like, I'm not sure if you ever were playing them at that point, because they haven't been releasing music for super long, but right. I know you're a big advocate of Vivid Zebra.
Yeah.
And I definitely want to have them on the podcast sometime. But
those guys are really doing some awesome stuff. And, the Intelligent Sound crew as well, like having that relationship between Lawrence and Kansas City and trying to build on that bridge a little bit more has been something I really have tried to focus on. And it seems like a lot of Lawrence musicians are all from Topeka, which is really interesting too. It's like Calhoun, he's, CJ Calhoun's brother, and they both have been doing like so much, like Ebony Tuss, like CJ Calhoun was in Ebony Tuss, and Marty has been such an influential person in my life and for so many other musicians, and especially Vivid Zebra. And it's cool to see like bedroom pop and like bedroom R&B coming out of Lawrence, and then also like bangers coming out of Lawrence. I'm really grateful to have them as friends, and also like a hip hop DIY situation, like as a neighbor, like in my backyard. It's really cool.
Yeah, and like you kind of mentioned, like that group is like such a diverse like spectrum of like hip hop and R&B and pop sounds, but they still like I think that's what makes like their live sets so special. Is like you get a taste of what each member does, and they're all doing something different, but it really all like kind of flows together in a unique way.
And Spencer Raymond, he works a lot with Brad, who works a lot with Toughies, and there's just a whole like chain of relationship in music, and especially in our community. And it's really cool to see all of these really awesome artists from like different projects or different bands like coming together and sending demos out, and they're like, do you want to work on this, and do you want to try something new? Seeing like Leslie play saxophone for Warm Bodies, like, you know what I mean, like just really mixing up all of these like awesome musicians that are doing all these different things to do something new. I don't know, I feel like we have a really awesome community that like really pushes you to try to think outside of your box. Just it's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And so are you still at KJHK?
I'm going back. I wasn't there this year just because I had focused a lot on Replay Records and kind of trying to build my own independent booking situation, which is really kind of hard. And especially like being one of the few femmes in the scene, it's a lot of pressure to like make sure everything goes well, because I'm kind of have a mama aura where I really just want everyone to be comfortable. And when you're throwing shows all the time, it's like you're hosting a party all the time, and you want to make sure everyone's safe and having a good time and getting home safe and all of that stuff. So it takes so much energy that I kind of took a step back from KJ, but I'm ready to go back. I feel like I've built a whole new catalog of like regional artists that I would really love to share.
Mm-hmm. And speaking on the safety aspect too, kind of like, I know that like there was that big Facebook group that kind of sprung up, the safe scene.
Yeah.
And like there was a bit of like kind of turmoil within that.
Definitely.
So where do you feel that Lawrence's music scene has made any progress in making it like a safer
I definitely think so. I know that there are a lot of people who don't feel comfortable at certain places or around certain things, or around certain musicians, and that's, you know, something that's super hard to touch on, just because I, like, as someone who hosts shows, really want to make sure everyone feels comfortable and, like I said, safe. And that whole, what had happened is there was a house show where some extremely, like, racist things were said and very, like, misogynist behavior was happening. And there were a group of femmes that got together and were just like, we've had enough. And then as soon as you kind of build the caliber of, like, we're going to create a standard, there are a lot of people that want to make sure that their needs are met. And when you have so many people who have so many needs, it's so hard as one person and as a group to make sure that there is, you know, everyone can feel comfortable and safe. And I feel like a lot, especially with Black Lives Matter in Lawrence, that was a lot of pressure to make sure the venues were like being intersectional and inclusive. And I think that was one really good step. And I think that in terms of femmes in the scene, there are a lot, like Girls Rock Lawrence is like so wonderful. And I think that that's given a lot of people a lot of strength to speak up and make sure their concerns are definitely heard. So I do appreciate the venues like going out of their way to say like, hey, we're not gonna mess around with things that aren't appropriate, safe, or like illegal. And I think that we have a tight enough community when someone is, you know, out of line, I don't know, it gets taken care of for the most part. And like I said before, as being one of the only femmes around and organizing, it is a lot of pressure to make sure that my fellow femmes feel safe and that they feel like they're being represented. And it's so touchy, you know, you have to make sure you say the right things and do the right things. And it's a really hard thing to manage. It takes a lot of energy.
And so yeah, you're mentioning, like there are kind of like several different like forces that are kind of like coalescing behind like having these standards and all that. So that's good to hear. Have there been like any real like notable instances since like these things came about where like you think like, you know, everything was like handled properly, and like have there been like situations that you've like witnessed?
Yeah, one time I was at the replay, and I mean, I'm like a 5 foot tall, like very small white femme, and this guy was just grabbing, and it was at a Full Blood show, so it's like, why, you know, like happy, funky synth pop, like there needs to be no like in any genre at any time, like any kind of sexual harassment at all. But specifically in this instance, I was like, I remember my mind being blown that this guy was just walking around and he was actually grabbing like other dudes' asses. And I was like, and everybody was like, please stop. And then he came up to me and he like groped me. And I have a really hard time with confrontation, but it was like 2 seconds and somebody else came around and was just like, you need to go. And it was like, I didn't have to defend myself or like do anything that it was really nice to feel like people were watching and had my back. As for house shows too, like I feel like we have a community where we're all kind of monitoring what's going on and making sure that like, you know, if something does go down, there's no time. Like, that person needs to go. So I don't know. I feel like there haven't been any instances as of late that have been, you know, appalling.
It's good to hear.
Yeah, super good to hear. Like, that's my worst nightmare.
So you'll be going back to KJHK coming up soon, and what are you studying at KU?
I'm studying African American studies as well as American studies. We actually at KU have one of the leading professors in funk music, which his name is Dr. Bolden, and he does this series called the Make It Funky series, and they're he brings in a touring lecturer, and last year was Kendrick Lamar, and this year was Prince, and they critically analyze their music, their like upcoming and their product, everything. And from a scholarly standpoint, it's just so fun to really look at a culture, like a music culture, through that lens. And so I actually get to write papers all the time about music, and it's really enjoyable. Like, one of my last papers I wrote was about Frank Ocean's like intersectionality and his dropping Def Jam, and also dropping like any kind of like identity label.
Yeah, he owns like he bought back the rights to like a lot of his music.
Right.
And,
yeah. So it's been really awesome, and like getting graded in a scholarly like institution about some of the stuff I'm really passionate about helps me understand why people make music, why people like Prince get to the place that they are, and it really helps me understand, like, I don't know, I feel like I'm intellectually broadening myself, with my degree rather than trying to get a gig with my degree, you know. I don't know what kind of job I could get other than blogging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm sure there's something interesting out there.
Oh, yeah,
and,
definitely.
Yeah, and I noticed your Facebook cover photo, too, is the Tumblr letter that Frank Ocean wrote. So
Yeah. That was, like, when I was like turning my paper in, I was so moved by just learning about his vulnerability and his efforts to redefine what masculinity really means in our society, that I was just like, I want everyone to read this all the time. Yeah.
And like you'll see it get like reposted by like Fader or whoever like every once in a while, and it just still hits hard every time you read it.
Yeah.
And I think like another somewhat interesting angle to the letter is that like, well, just like to his like persona as a whole, like he emerged from like Odd Future, which is like this wild rap group known for like saying all this crazy stuff and like having these crazy shows, but like he's like pulled something really unique and vulnerable from that setting. So
definitely, and he still continues to do that. Oh, I love Frank Ocean. Wow.
and the same thing too, kind of from Sid and like the internet's music.
Right.
And,
totally.
Yeah. Totally. And I know Steve Lacy kind of works with all them. It's like there is like the softer, like more emotional music coming from like all these Odd Future affiliates is becoming even more interesting than like the loud, crazy stuff that they're all releasing at some point.
I feel like too, like it's a coming of age album in I was thinking Channel Orange, but I mean anything Frank Ocean really has been putting out is like a coming of age as a millennial, as a don't want to say queer, but I don't want to say queer because he doesn't like to be labeled anything at all, but as someone who is fluid, a coming of age album about love and relationships, it to me mirrors The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, which came out 20 years ago, which is a very like emotional, feminist, like just 22 years old, like this is what it is. 20 years later, fast forward, we see Frank Ocean doing the same thing, but as a male, and it's really beautiful.
Is Miseducation an album that you've studied at all, like in your classes?
I love that album. I mean, just on my own, and then I also, I've written a paper or two about it. Just her vulnerability and her being with the Fugees, doing that album, and then like beyond that. Where she is now kind of thing. And it's more of an analysis of the specific things she's saying, the samples that she's using, she has a line in it that was like, I'll treat this like my thesis. And I'm like, yes, queen, yes. Like, yes. And I think that that's what all artists are doing with their albums is, it's their thesis, it's their baby, it's their creative, intellectual property. And that's also why I love like working with locals, because one day it won't be local and it'll be something huge, that people are all listening to. It's all just kind of like people pouring their experiences, their intelligence, their love, passion, soul into these products. So studying it from micro to macro has been really interesting. And
not to stray too far from like local
Sorry,
music and everything. No,
Lauryn Hill and going.
No, that's my fault. But I thought like I've only listened to it a couple times so far, but the new Jay-Z album is also like incredibly interesting from like kind of a sociological and totally. Family aspect too.
Well, yeah, Jay-Z's like one of the biggest capitalists ever, so it's so interesting to like hear what he's been putting out, and it's especially interesting too after people like Beyonce, putting out Lemonade, or Solange kind of being like the modern Donna Summer. Like it's all a response to one another of this like hierarchy of music, so I've always been like a little sus of Jay-Z, so I'm excited that this album has kind of been a little bit, he kind of took more of an emotional.
Yeah, it's kind of sobering.
Right,
kinda,
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and this is like, it is like a really crazy like group of 3 albums, like Lemonade, Seat at the Table, and 444. Like,
right.
I think people are going to look back at this and just be like, that was pretty wild.
Yeah, well, and too, it's so interesting to see like all of these. When we were talking about KJ, bringing Princess Nokia, it's like all of these like femmes of color just coming out and saying how it is. It's so inspiring. Like, Jungle Pussy, like Cupcake, Princess Nokia. I've just like they're all throwing bangers out, and I can't stop listening to them. So I feel like 2017 is treating people right. In terms of music.
Yeah, otherwise
like,
no. But yeah, I saw like somewhere like on Facebook or something that you had worked at Decade 2, which is kind of involved in live music, at least at this point.
Right.
What were you?
So Decade, I was a barista there for a while, and that was super fun. I just, 6:30 a.m. shifts after throwing shows don't work as well. But Louis, the owner, has purchased the garage next door and was planning on making it a cafe, and I think he still is, but in the meantime, we're utilizing that space for shows. And what's so great about it is it's an all-ages space that can have shows from like 7 to 10, so it's really awesome to see, 5-year-olds running around, or somebody who might not want to go out to the bars past 10 p.m., and giving people the option to see live music but not have to go too out of their way to do so. And like I said, the all ages thing is super important, and catering to like the next generation is always like something I think everyone should do.
Yeah, having all ages shows is like, to me, one of the, like, if not the most important thing to like a local music scene.
And it's like, hard to do. It is hard to do, which is also why the Schoolhouse is going to be really awesome too, and Decade as well. Decade, Wonder Fair, and Love Garden have been really, really supportive in terms of, working at Love Garden. I learned so much all of the time. Like every time I'm there, there's something new that I haven't heard before. Or, Kelly, the owner, will say something that blows my mind. And he and that, like, all of Love Garden has really pushed me to try to go outside of myself and do things that I wouldn't expect myself to do. And Wonder Fair has been really, really supportive of, flyering and, like, sending contacts on. Paul DeGeorge at Wonder Fair specifically has been printing tickets and keeping me in contact and really pushing me to, do the damn thing. And as for Decade, I get to use that space for free, which is a dream. It's an absolute dream. Just not having to rent a space and having like an outside area and people with a liquor license, so I don't have to worry about that. It's it's been really great.
Yeah, and it'll have passed by the time this episode is out, but it's either tonight or tomorrow is the Fuck Life tour.
That's tonight. Yeah.
With Vivid Zebra and all those guys. So that'll be So is there anything else coming up at Decade that you have booked?
There are a few shows. We're having some kind of noise complaint issues, that happens with DIY spaces. So we're trying to kind of figuring out how to manage and what genres really fit and work there. But we had an Arc Flash show at Kudzu from Springfield, and Bad Dreamer, which is a new project out of Kansas City, play a show. And it was really awesome. Just it was loud because it's a garage. And then coming up, we have like a band from Lincoln, and it's Miwi La Lupa. And so I'm really looking forward to that. But I do get like a lot of requests each week from a lot of musicians that are like, oh, I'm hearing of this new Decade space. Can I play this Decade space? And it's just, it's hard to figure out who's going to fit in this like tiny garage. I'm really looking forward to having Intelligent Sound there and working with Peter. And I really, like I said before, want to build that bridge between Kansas City and Lawrence a little bit more and bring it to Lawrence. So I hope it goes well. I'm still looking for a sub, but
Yeah, I'm sure it'll work out.
Yeah.
But another show that you've been working on that's coming up is the Downtown Boys at the White Schoolhouse in Lawrence with Ebony Tusks and Warm Bodies.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that space. Can you tell me about it?
Yeah, it's a kind of like a venue space, like a wedding venue space. So it's just kind of this big open room with a big deck and a big like backyard. And it's in super far North Lawrence. It's pretty much like as far North Lawrence as you can go before you're not in Lawrence anymore. You have to go over the bridge. But I started working with a few agents, I do a lot of communication with DIY bands and DIY groups, and that's kind of like, who you know here, and does anyone know anybody in this town, or does anyone know if I have a place to crash? And I've kind of gotten I got that formula down, so I've started working with agents a little bit more, and once you start doing that, you have to, it's kind of a gambling game because there are guarantees involved. You have to pay sound and rental fees and things like that. And there just isn't a space, or wasn't a space that I could think of in Lawrence other than White Schoolhouse to do it. And Paul DeGeorge actually he was the one that was like, I think we should do the Schoolhouse. And I was like, wow, yeah, that's a really good idea. I've seen, my friend Rachel had a birthday party there, and Pale Tongue played, I'm pretty sure, and Arc Flash. I can't think of all of the other bands that played because it was a wild night, but it was like 5 or 6 sweet local bands that were just, it was a party and people showed up, and I really was like, dang, okay. So what'll be good about this space is Decade's actually going to cater there too, so that'll be cool because it'll, liquor license and stuff. I don't have to worry about that. And Wonder Fair is doing a lot of advertisement and helping out and making cute little tickets. When you like cut the corner off, like the perforated corner after you get in, it looks like Kansas. It's really adorable.
Is it like what was the building? Did it used to be like
a schoolhouse? It used to be a
schoolhouse,
schoolhouse, yeah. Cool. And I actually don't know much about the history, which I probably should figure out. But they haven't really done a lot of shows there. So this is going to be the first one, Downtown Boys, on August 21st. It's going to be the first shows that I'm doing that are tickets like $10 or, $10 to $12, and all ages, 7 p.m. And it's a new thing, and I think it'll go well. I can't foresee it going poorly, but I hope it becomes a thing. It's kind of like what I'm hoping becomes like the Outhouse that used to be like way more punk than probably something that I could ever pull off. But the Outhouse was, on the outskirts of town and was all ages and was just throwing these awesome shows with like bands like the Micronauts and Minutemen and things like that. And it's, history that I really want to make, and like the Outhouse just isn't the option anymore. And there doesn't seem to be.
There's other stuff
kitchen.
Going on there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's the Haunted Kitchen, which is, a historical punk house, and I'm so stoked that there are shows happening there too. I can feel the energy, in our community, and it's so fun to try to put shows in weird places, and hope it works, and it usually does. So.
And
there are more shows past that, yeah. Like, we're going to do a few more shows after Downtown Boys that I can't announce yet, but they're going to be really good. And hopefully we can get people, from the dorms and people that are just coming into Lawrence, into the scene, and really show them the family and the community and, like, the importance of music, and how, I remember the first time I heard a local band, it was at Farmer's Ball, which KJHK puts on. Not the first time I had heard a local band, but saw Psychic Heat play, and I was like, wow, that's local? Like, whoa. And I just remember having this huge epiphany of like, oh, music has to start somewhere. So I want to do that for, freshmen that are coming in, like, showing all of their friends, like, have you heard this band? This band is from Lawrence. So it's one of my, like, goals. If any time I bring a touring band through, if I'm working with an agent, I want to have a local on the show. It's just kind of my thing.
And I feel like that definitely can be a challenge to, like, bring new college students into a music scene, because, like, I don't know, like, one part is, like, kind of like just the ignorance factor, like they don't know it's happening and don't know where to go, and the other thing is just like they want to party and like they might not know how to act, so it's kind of it can be a challenge, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and getting them over the bridge to, like, oh, where's the schoolhouse? Oh my gosh, it's like 10 minutes from here, and that seems like forever in Lawrence, you know. And also making sure people are driving safe too is always a tough one. Yeah.
And but you mentioned working at Love Garden too, and Love Garden is just the Lawrence music institution, one of the greatest record stores
ever.
And so, yeah, what has working there been like for you?
It's such a privilege. It is. I remember coming to Lawrence and walking in and being like, oh, I would love to work here. I would do anything. And so I had given them my resume like 3 or 4 years ago, like right when I got there. So I've been in Lawrence for 4 years now, working at Love Garden for a year. So I had applied, I guess, for 3 years, and Kelly, like, he texted me or messaged me on Facebook and was like, hey, do you want to meet up for a beer? And I was like, cool, we'll probably just be like talking about something. And we were just talking, and then he was just like, so when you start? And I was like, but it's been so great. All the touring bands that come in and sell their stuff, you get to meet them, and you get to hear new things all the time. You get to know, like, what's coming out. It really helps, especially with booking too, is like being able to foresee album releases and being like, okay, I think I can make this work. I think I can align this, or, ooh, there's a lot of predictions happening, and with like all of the new releases, it's so helpful. It's super helpful, and everyone that works there is so magical. Like, everyone is doing something. Like, Franklin and Gnarly Davidson is such an inspiring person. I love working with him, and he's been doing the show Dollar Country, and he's just such a unique person. And I feel like you're not going to meet people with such passion and uniqueness as you would in a record store, especially Love Garden. Like, it's the best.
Yeah, and they're so you mentioned that Franklin's and Gnarly Davidson, and I'm sure there's other people that work there all the time that are in like local bands or like.
Everyone is doing something, like Katie, she's been pricing records for so long. I think we did the math, and she's done like over 100,000 used records or something crazy like that. That might be like a little of an exaggeration, but she's been just like pricing records forever, and so that's like her gig. And there's Alex Chaney, who's a part of Vivid Zebra, and also is Maybe Not, and Sam Boatwright and Hush Machine, and Kemper, who's also part of Vivid Zebra, and Casey, who I met at KJ. Like, everyone has something going on, and it's, every day you go in there, you leave with, inspiration and education.
I think it is interesting, though, that, so there's 2 people working there that are in Vivid Zebra, and, like, I don't think Vivid Zebra has released anything, like, any physical music.
Right.
So, even if you're not, like, making physical music and putting it out, like, you're still, like, accepted into, like, kind of that scene, and
right,
like, but maybe that will prompt like a tape or a record at some point. So
yeah, that's always like a point of conversation too, is like, why do mixtapes exist? And I'm always like, capitalism, but There, it's always a good conversation, and I've been like on and off on thinking about putting or trying to put out a compilation hip hop tape just to like so we can all have something like a nostalgia piece, you know, and even if it's just for us, like I don't know, one day the internet might just not work.
No, yeah, I'm a big fan of just physical documentation and like just collecting that type of stuff.
Yeah,
so
totally.
I think it's an important part of any scene and its history and
right.
everything.
Which is, why I love doing Replay Records too. And trying, I kind of was like given Replay Records by, it started by Brad Shanks and it's funded by Nick Carroll at the Replay and went through Jessica and now it's kind of my baby. I get to like pick bands and I do all of the legwork, I do all the promotion, I book the shows, and that also takes like a ton of energy. But it's so when you just hold that product in your hand, you're like, yes, like we're all doing this together. And once it's like finally there, you're like, cool, this 6 months of work is worth it,
Yeah, what are some of the releases that you've helped put out with Replay Records?
I jumped on the end of Psychic Heat, so I kind of helped do all the promo and stuff and didn't have to do like the submission legwork. And we pressed through Got a Groove in Cleveland, and they've been pretty good. But after Psychic Heat, we did Gnarly, and Gnarly was so much fun. Like those guys are a blast, and working with them, they did everything so differently. They were like, we don't want to make art, we don't want to print art, so they got the United States flag sleeves and that, just watching people's like creative wheels spin and getting to like help, not really be involved, just kind of like hosting them has been awesome. And watching, I don't know if you were at the Mills show when Sam just like vommed while he was on stage.
Oh, I heard about that.
It was awesome. It was so awesome.
And they might have like put a hole in the ceiling also?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
It was wild. But so that one was fun. And then we did Toughies, and Toughies are so great. Like I love that band so much. Like Carl is like one of my super close friends, and just watching them like. We did Spring into Summer for our release show, and this woman bought 7 like records. I was like, yeah, cool.
And Spring into Summer is just kind of like a one-day like kind of fest that happens at the Replay.
Mm-hmm. Just like a bunch of like local bands celebrating that it's summertime and school's done, and I was stoked because I was like, cool, finals are done. Like I can breathe, and this record's being released. So it was kind of just like a freedom situation. And now we're doing CS Luxem, which I'm really looking forward to. Chris has been doing a bunch of stuff with Whatever Forever, and he's just been a really huge staple piece of the Lawrence music scene, and I'm really stoked that Replay is like putting him out just because I think he deserves it so much. He's going to be touring a little bit, and I just, he's like soul, funk, psychedelic dad. He's the coolest.
Yeah, he does like just a lot of really inventive stuff with like all the work that I've heard from him. Like, and I've only seen him live like a couple times, but it seems like it's always like a little different every time you see him.
Definitely, yeah. And the split is going to be super good. The test presses are on the way, and I'm very much looking forward to that. We have another band who submitted their stuff too, but we haven't announced it yet. So we're continuing to put things out, and it's been, we've been profiting off of it, which has been awesome, like breaking even so we can keep going. And it doesn't look like it's stopping anytime soon. So I'm always, encouraging people to start making music and start touring and getting to know each other. And I don't know, maybe then you can have a Replay record yourself.
And so you got into Replay Records like through working at Replay Lounge?
Well, actually, KJ introduced me to Nick Carroll at the Replay to start helping with Three Headed Thursdays because KJ was helping sponsor that. And so I started there booking like a Thursday every month, and that kind of changed where I was kind of just scouting for bands, which is how Duran Jones happened, which is also because of Love Garden. We got that record in, and I was like, whoa,
that's like
my God.
one of my favorite shows that I've seen at Replay.
So
Probably my
beautiful. Favorite. It was just like watching like just a soul ripper on stage, like at the Replay in a dive bar. It's just like everyone in that room is going to remember that forever, you know, and that's what it's about. Like, is you're creating these memories for people, like like, oh, do you remember we saw Duran Jones at the Replay Lounge? Like, Mac DeMarco played there, you know? That's what it's about. But Nick was like, you seem like really on top of like the music scene, and you know, do you want to take this over? And he kind of just was like a little passive about it, and I was like, yeah, and went really extreme with it, and you know, run the Replay Records accounts and try really hard to, it's, you know, keeping everything straight with my independent thing and Replay Records, and you know, working at Love Garden too is, they're all different lanes, yet they cross all the time, you know, so you have to keep it straight. And it's, you know, we were kind of talking about this earlier, there's so many shows and so many things going on, there's so many options, and it's really a great thing that there's so many things happening. It's also hard to keep them organized.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you booked the Duran Jones show at the Replay. Is there anything else that's come through there that you've been really excited about?
Well, during that show, AZP from, I think, Lincoln, I was going to say Omaha, but from Lincoln opened, and I really I enjoyed seeing, like, just that much passion and soul, like, on that stage. I really am trying to focus more in on that, and there hasn't been a show that has topped Duran Jones for me. Like, that one was just, my heart exploded, and I couldn't stop smiling because it was just, oh, it was so great. But because of that show, I booked AZP again for the Replay Records and Friends Showcase, which is happening on July 13th. And so I'm really looking forward to Lawrence Field Day Fest. Like, that's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, this episode will be out on what day is Tuesday? It'll be like right before Field Day Fest starts, right?
Yeah, it'll be the 11th. That'll be Tuesday.
Awesome.
The 11th.
So yeah, what are you excited for at Field Day Fest?
Oh my gosh, the fact that there's just so many things going on all at one time. I know I've said that is just like one of my favorite parts of the scene, but my two shows, I have Replay Records and Friends on Thursday, and that's Tuffy's, who we've put out, and then Chris Luxem, which we kind of announced with this show that we'll be putting out his record, AZP, Crystal Rose from Kansas City, which I'm just like, yeah, I've been feeling her lately a lot, like, I love Femme Soul, and Laguerre. So that set I'm really looking forward to. And High Dive has a showcase at the Bottleneck with Dressy Bessie and Psychic Heat and Arc Flash and Sex Snobs. And I don't know. I mean, it's just so hard to keep them all straight because there's so many bands playing. Like Fantastics are playing, Gnarly Davidson's playing. On Saturday for the Peb Sounds showcase, that's going to be Condor and Jaybird out of Rock Island, Illinois, and they rule. They're so awesome. So I'm really excited to see them. And Pale Tongue and Q, who I saw at Farmer's Ball this year for KJHK, and she just like blew the place up. It was so fun. Like, I love, like, I just, you know, seeing a femme on stage is just something special. There's a little bit more magic, I think. And Heidi Link Luck and the Pony Show is just, you know, one of those bands that makes you, like, cry when you see them because you're just like, oh, those are the feels. So I'm very much looking forward to just, you know, not my own showcases. That's where I'll be the entire time, but just the fact that there's so many things happening and Lawrence has so many options and we just get to celebrate each other and all the venues and everyone who books, like Fally, and it's just a celebration, I feel like, of everyone's hard work and like, look at all these amazing people that we have here.
So yeah, you're having a showcase for Peb Sounds, which is like your own little company
thing.
Yeah, I really can't tell like what its functions are sometimes, right. But tell me what you think.
Well, yeah, no, it started as kind of just like one night I was like, what am I doing? Like, I'm booking shows, I'm kind of just like testing everything out. Am I blogging? Am I doing this? And I'm actually kind of in the process of a rebrand, which I'll be launching here in the next, I don't know, probably a few weeks or a month. I've got a new brand, like a little new logo and everything, but I'll be switching to Petrie Productions, which is the first time I've told anybody that.
Oh, exclusive.
Yeah. So that will be more oriented towards just booking shows and putting on, which can be anything from Haunted Kitchen to Decade to Replay to whatever, and then Peb Sounds, which probably won't exist anymore. Will was more oriented towards blogging will probably fade a little bit more, and will probably just be more on my personal account. And Peb is like, that's the embroider,
like your
on
first,
my
middle, last.
yeah, it's on my backpack that I've had since I was in preschool. So it's just like a picture of my backpack that I still carry around. So I'm going to kind of take the personal out of it and make it a little bit more business oriented, more about what is happening rather than my own personal taste.
Yeah, and I've know like you're just kind of posting like music videos and just like local music stuff that you just like personally enjoy.
Yeah, things that you should know is going on. Sometimes it's really hard to like keep up with the Joneses, like when there's so many things being released all the time, or you know, you're busy in school. So I definitely want to be a source for people like, oh, I kind of fell off, you know, paying attention to what's going on in the hip hop world. Like maybe I could go to Peb Sounds, see what they're listening to or whatever. And that's, you know, I took a picture of the Princess Nokia goat video because I was just like, oh, I'm feeling this so hard. And also KJHK is putting that show on. And
Yeah, that show's going to be awesome.
I know. I want to support them as much as I can because they've done so much for me.
And so what do you think are some of like the most challenging things about like booking shows and just making like local music work in Lawrence?
It's really hard to convince people why they should come at all, you know, and that's usually the music speaks for itself. So I don't have to do all that much, but making sure like people know, one, the show is going on, and two, like why it's important, you know, why they will be like enjoying themselves there. And I'm learning now too, like with more DIY spaces, I should probably own my own PA. Like renting a PA seems like a pain, and just, you know, making sure the bands are there on time, or, you know, actually want to play. And I really try hard to make sure all the bands get paid. And I'm really I get nervous. I'm like, hey, there's a touring band. Do you want to pay? I hate taking people's money, but I really want to make sure, especially touring bands, get paid. So that's super challenging. But, you know, it's a part of the game. The most challenging part is the money, you know, when you're putting on big shows like Downtown Boys and things like that, it's a gamble. You know, you have these huge guarantees and you have to believe in yourself enough and your ability to promote and your ability to believe in yourself that it's going to work out and that you're not going to have to pull this money out of your pocket. So it's hard, but it's worth it. It's totally worth it.
Yeah, what are you just in general most looking forward to about what's happening in Lawrence the rest of the year and so on?
All of these shows.
Yeah.
Oh man, like Mammoth is like, they're on it right now. They're putting some, I'm stoked for Angel Olsen, like Gold Link, that's KJ, you know, Princess Nokia. Some of the shows that I've been booking that I can't announce yet, I'm so stoked about. Like Downtown Boys is going to be great because it's also on the same day. It's the first day of classes, and it's the same day as the solar eclipse, so everyone's going to be kind of in like a weird like space.
Yeah. Do you know like if it'll happen during the show or
I think
like
the eclipse is at like 1.
Okay,
so hopefully everyone can like get that in and then like get it out. You know what I mean? Like party and have a really nice time. And I'm just excited to see Warm Bodies play with Ebony Tusks, like that combo. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to what the replay has in store. Usually, like they pull like a really nice like charmer right out of their pocket, and you're just like, oh, and it's so casual. So I'm excited to see because there's 3 people that book there, Sheridan, Mark, and I, and we have to work together, and it's hard to sometimes keep it all organized. But we all have such like our own eclectic taste that it always ends up being something good. So I'm looking forward to seeing, and Sheer Mag at Bottleneck.
Yeah,
I'm pumped for that.
That'll be great.
Westerners, this will air after that, but they're releasing an album at Love Garden. Love Garden also just like pulls like some like kick-ass shows out of the pocket.
Yeah, I saw Girlpool there like a year or 2 ago.
Yeah.
And what else has been there? Like, because I know
Woods has been there.
with Thor and Friends.
Yeah,
and,
I think Oh, man, yeah, because Kelly just like has all these connections. Like you're just like, oh,
Yeah, like it might only happen like 2-3 times a year, but when it does, like,
right.
it'll be a really cool show that he
Totally.
books.
Yeah, Shy Boys are working on some new stuff. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Oh yeah, I love the Shy Boys.
Yeah, he posted the Life is Peachy
I
video
love
the other
it.
day.
It's so
That's a
cute.
great video.
I love that music video. I'm always excited to see what High Dive is up to. Like they really Jeff is such an important person.
He doesn't do anything wrong.
I know.
Every record that he's put out for like the last 2 years has been like amazing. So
I know. Yeah. So and Dreamgirl's been working and releasing some stuff. So I'm really excited to see what else they're putting out. Like I love that dreamy, like lacy vibe she has. Her own personal vibe that she puts out. It's beautiful. I'm excited to see what people are putting out.
Awesome.
Mostly.
Me too. So yeah, where can people follow you on social media and everything? What should they be looking out for?
Yeah, I'm just Peb Sounds on Instagram and Peb Sounds on Facebook. And Replay Records is also the Instagram name, so it's pretty easy. It's replay_records, which you can always find out about upcoming shows, upcoming releases. I guess that would probably be it. And then Peb Sounds, you never know what you're going to get. It's kind of like a smorgasbord of music stuff that I like. And then eventually will be Petrie Productions.
Yeah, so look out for that launch coming up next month.
Yeah.
And sweet. So yeah, people can go to shuttlecockmusic.com and look at all the stuff on there. There's also a store. That's like the best way to support the podcast and the website and everything. There's t-shirts and zines and buttons. You need to make sure to subscribe to the Shuttlecock podcast on iTunes and YouTube. And the Shuttlecock has a show at Mills Record Company coming up on August 4th with Primitive Future, A.D.D, Tommy Strasser, and Solomon. So there's like hip-hop, yeah, hip-hop, indie rock, and death metal all in one evening, so I'm excited for that. That's August 4th at Mills Records at 6 p.m.
I love
Free
Mills.
show, all ages. Yeah,
I love Mills.
Yeah. And, yeah, look out for new episodes from Jason Barr on the A.D.D podcast. We're part of the A.D.D podcast family, so be checking that out. And, yeah, thank you for coming out today, Paige.
Thank you for everything you do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, yeah. Just have a good one.
You too.